Welcome back, collectors. Today we're going to be talking about fakes, copies, and downright knockoffs. So here we have not Mafex 75 Amazing Spider-Man. This is actually a knockoff that I picked up from AliExpress for about 20 bucks. You can see here there's not exactly the best packaging quality. His hands seem to be missing. They're in the bottom. I checked, they just fell out, but they don't seem to be taped down by much of anything. Outside of the box, you can see there's some inconsistencies with it. We have the new Mafex boxes here, for example. They're not the exact same, but some things that are missing on this one to show up on this one. For example, the Marvel logo here, you can see that it's nowhere to be found. This little Mafex Medicom toy logo right here, it's also not right here. On the back, I think we're missing a few Marvel logos. You can see there's one here by the Thwip, nothing here. You got the Peter heads, different ones he comes with. I do believe this is the same concept art used on the original figure, but you get a few more poses on the side. You get him in a little pose there. Top, you get your Spider-Man logos. Side, more artwork, and the bottom is a bunch of stuff. With that, let's get this guy open. Alright, so out of the box, you look at this guy, you take a look at him, and out of the box, man, I'm not gonna lie to you, yeah, he sucks. He comes right apart. I guess I got some loose joints, as you can expect. That's really common with these knockoffs. You're gonna get some loose joints. This leg one actually stayed a little bit better than this arm one, but you can't even move this arm one at all without it detaching. So I mean, out of the box impressions, I'll take a look at this guy. His eyes seem really silver instead of a white. They're kind of metallic-y, but the glaring thing about this guy is his hips, dude. His hips to me are just like, they do not lie. They do, because they're a little bit big. I have my new Mafex 185 Spider-Man for comparison. You can kind of see how protruded this guy's hips are compared to an actual Mafex figure. Other than this aggressively loose arm and this leg that falls off if you put too much pressure, all the other joints seem to stay pretty sturdy. This arm's just fine. I noticed you can wiggle it around, you get the full rotation and everything. This leg one also seems a little bit squeaky, even like it's tight. These knees, nice and sturdy. Nothing's loose, basically. You don't really see anything shaking, but it is very common to get loose joints, to get, obviously, like this arm, but like leg joints are really common to be shaky in knockoff figures. The toes are the one thing that are a little bit loose with this figure. Everything else is kind of tight except for this arm, of course, but the toes are really, really loose. As you can tell here, there's some resistance to the real there's some resistance to the real figure in posing it, but for this there's just absolutely nothing holding it back from moving around. It is really wiggly. And this is actually the second version of this knockoff, because the original knockoff version of the Mafex 75 Spider-Man originally had like a tiny torso, like a tiny torso. So you can see they kind of fixed the torso on this guy, but they didn't do much about the hips, dude. This guy could be an extra in a Nicki Minaj video, because those things are very protruded outwards. He's definitely got some curves. As far as paint application goes for this guy, it's not terrible. You do have some pretty average black lines, inconsistently colored in, but that was kind of the case with the original figure also. You can see he does little dark spots in the abdomen. Decent paintwork in the chest right here. It's kind of faded in the shoulder. I noticed in the face too, just looking straight at him, you get really inconsistent with the paint. You got a dark spot here, almost nothing filled in over here. Jeez, look at that. You just get some really inconsistent paint apps, but I mean, what can you expect for a $20 figure? Go to the back here is really where you get some, well, I mean, this is why the figure was 20 bucks. You get some dark spots here and this big ugly line in the middle of the spider right here. Dark spots on the shoulder, dark spots on the shoulder. The blue shading, I will say, is not terrible. I think they did a good job with the blue shading. So starting off in the head, you do get a decent, almost 90-degree head tilt in the neck here. Oh jeez, it goes further to the left than it does to the right, but that's weird. But you can go decently. You can't really go high up at all, but you can get. Oh, geez, you can go really far down. But he does have that inconsistent head tilt clearly. Arms, he is on some butterfly joints. This arm moves just fine front and back. You can move it forward about this much, back about this much. This one I'm not even gonna bother with that one. He can get a pretty good arch backwards and pretty good arch forwards. He is on a double dumbbell joint, so there's a little dumbbell joint here and here, which allows him to get that ab crunch forward. Hips, the hips are really tight for me. You can't really move them around too well. This leg will come off, but this one is just kind of, doesn't move too bad, but I can't really seem to get the drop down hips to drop down, so I'm assuming they're just not there, and they don't move like a Mafex figure. Like the Mafex figure here, you can see his hips, they drop down. You see, it's nice and easy, so you can kick up the figure's leg. But for this one, they just kind of don't move. So I'm assuming he just doesn't have drop down hips, but he's definitely got hips. Over here we have a double jointed knees. You can see how this knee peg kind of protrudes outwards, really ugly, where the regular Mafex doesn't really have that issue because it's more smooth. You know, it's not as jagged and rigid when compared to. You can see when his legs here, when he has his joints out like this, there is kind of a gap in between each of these little pegs that you don't really have with the Mafex figure. You can see how flush it is. There's no gap between these two leg connections like there is in this one. And you do kind of have that with the arms as well, I noticed. You see, there's just kind of gaps in between the Mafex figure that isn't really there. Comparing the two again, you can also see this guy's got his little tramp stamp for Marvel right here. And this guy does not, because of course he's not a licensed figure, otherwise he wouldn't be acting like he had a stroke and half his limbs ain't working. Continuing on to the legs, he is on double jointed knees, as we mentioned previously, and a ball joint for the feet. So as far as accessories, this guy comes with a fair bit. You can see here we have the kind of mask that you can put in his hand, Peter Parker mask. You have the kind of McFarlane looking head, the more angry-eyed Spider-Man. You can see the paint apps on this guy aren't too terrible. He is pretty dark though, compared to the rest of the body. So this head may look off-putting when put on the body because it is just a deeper, darker red. You can actually see here, this one is more in line with what the actual custom looks like, and just look how much darker this is compared to that. You see? And this is the, this is Peter Parker. Yeah. Webbing, he does come with the standard Mafex Spider-Man webbing. So we do have our one warped guy right here that you can attach to the stand that it comes with. This long one. You get your two long ones that are, mine are really warped. They are not straight at all. And these two, which are about as straight as Brian Stelter. These, actually, I have a real one right here that came with the other Mafex figure, and you can't really tell the difference, except this one's a little warped. But, so if you do need extra webbing, if you do need any extra accessories, you can get this figure. It might be cheaper than buying real authentic accessories online, but beware that some of them may not fit, or you'll get some messed up ones like we have here. So here we have the thumbs up hands that you're able to put the webbing in. Here we have two right-handed magnetic hands. Aside from those, he comes with his two neutral hands, his two wall crawling hands. We got a single swooping hand, because again this thing was $20, and if you notice here, I don't know if you can see on camera, but those are not the same color. This one is, wait, this guy's Jordans are fake. They are fake. They are not the same color. Obviously some of them are really messed up, some of them are the wrong color, and some of them are just not there, but yes, this guy kind of sucks. So for some size comparison, we have an actual Mafex Spider-Man figure. You can see this guy is like a little bit, he's got a little bit on him. He also is on like permanent drop down hip mode, so he is going to be taller. So here we have him next to the Marvel's Legends Symbiote Spider-Man, which he is actually about the same size as. And this guy is a little big for Spider-Man for my taste. So this guy being just as tall and as messed up as he is, he scales fine for Spider-Man. He looks like this. So here we have him next to the Marvel Legends Mark 43 Iron Man, which he's significantly shorter than, and the Marvel Legends Captain America Civil War, which he is also shorter than. So he does scale decently as a Spider-Man figure when compared to Marvel Legends. Here we have him with the Marvel Legends White Tiger and the Marvel Legends Take on Your Mother. You can see he's significantly taller than White Tiger and significantly shorter than Your Mother. So he does scale nicely with Marvel Legends, as we mentioned previously, with little figures and big figures. Here we have him next to some Spider-Man villains. We have him next to Taskmaster here, which he's shorter than, and Mr. Morbin, which he is also shorter than. So he does scale nicely as a Spider-Man figure. I do like my Spider-Man smaller than the villains and often smaller than the heroes he faces up against. Kind of gives him more of that teenage feel to his character, minus the missing arm and leg. So final thoughts on this guy and if he's worth a buy. You may be thinking he's a bad figure because he doesn't come with all his accessories and his arms fell off and his leg fell off, and you may think he's terrible because his Peter Parker is yellow and looks like he's sick. But so you may think he's a bad figure for that, and you'd be correct because this guy sucks. But for $20, I mean, you get what you get. I wasn't expecting great quality. I wasn't expecting everything to be in order. So for $20, is he worth a buy? Look, if you want to get a figure and you can't afford the Mafex, because Mafex is expensive in all reality. Mafex is expensive. You know, this figure here cost me about like $110 with shipping and everything, and it's a great figure. I don't regret buying it at all. But I understand not everyone is stacked like me. So if you want this figure and you just want it for a couple pictures, you can do that. But don't be surprised when, if you post your pictures, people notice that it's a knockoff or whatever, because good eyes and good people who collect these figures are going to notice. They're going to notice the chunky kneecaps. They might notice the limbs falling off of, but not everyone's that keen, you know. They are going to notice the inconsistent paint jobs, but you can get away with some cool poses with this guy. It's a knockoff, but it's a knockoff of a great figure, you know, so it's going to maintain some of those qualities while still having the faults of an actual figure. So if you want to get this guy for $20, take a couple pictures with him, put him in some decent poses, and then never touch him again, because if you touch him, he will fall apart. Then I guess you can do that for $20. So ideally, if you can wait and you have some sense of patience, I would just save up for the actual figure. But I don't necessarily regret buying this guy either, because he did come with a lot of accessories that I can use as replacements for my other figures, and the webbings too I wasn't disappointed with. But I would save up for the actual figure. For $20, he's definitely worth it, just because it is only $20. You know, you're paying what you would for an old Marvel Legend, and you're getting all of this stuff. You know, so he's definitely worth the $20. But you're really rolling the dice when you buy these figures. You know, maybe you'll get the exact same figure that I get, but yours isn't worth $20 because maybe he has a really bad paint job or none of his arms stick at all. You know, I was lucky that 3 of these things stayed on, but not everyone is so lucky. And that's just what you get when you buy knockoffs. You know, so for $20, he's definitely worth it. But I don't think he should be your priority when getting a figure. You know. Ideally, if you can, have patience, save up for the real one. You're not going to regret buying it. With this guy, he's just not too useful, you know. So he does suck compared to other figures, you know, compared to like an actual Mafex figure. Yes, he's terrible. But when you compare him to how much he's worth, you know, it's this guy or a decent steak. You know, would you rather have this guy or a decent steak? I'd rather have the steak. But that's not to say this guy is terrible for $20. He's definitely worth the $20, but he shouldn't be your priority as a figure. So that concludes my review with this guy. You get out of here and I'll see you guys later.
Rock band on me, what is there left to say? Get back, little bro, and I put that on the game, let's get it, get back.